Get in, nerds. We're playing Victoria 3. Surprise, we're playing as France. We're getting into some of this monarchist stuff, trying to see how this event works. So, I'm going to take you through the basic situation first. That'll probably be the explanation of most of this episode, and then we'll kind of get started with the game. Before we do that, though, I just want to show off the new visual stylization. All of this is new with the 1.4 patch. This nice design here. And we also have a fancy new table with a bunch of delightful new whatever you needs on the side here. So that's pretty rad. And we got a new sort of visual theme for the map. We have these back in English with kind of astronomical themed designs. I don't necessarily want to spend too much time on this, but it's, you know, it's pretty neat. Pretty cool. Anyway, let's get back to France. I want to show y'all what we're working with here. So, the primary journal entry we're going to be fooling around with is the Divided Monarchists journal entry. So, description here is this. 3 dynastic lines have claims on the French throne. The Orleanists, who date back to the constitutional July monarchy established in 1830. The Legitimists, who support the deposed Charles X of Bourbon, and his descendants, and the Bonapartists, who seek to restore Napoleon Bonaparte's family to power. All 3 dynastic monarchies vie with the powers that be, and with each other, to see their particular claimants put on the throne of France. So, this is not super clear what's going on with this, but here's the way it goes. This will complete if we're a monarchy, and if one of the 3 vying dynasties has cemented its rule over France. So there's a period of struggle, followed by a period of consolidation. If completed, the leading dynastic ideology will have an event to put their own candidate on the French throne. Will fail if any French interest group is not marginalized and stance on presidential republic is greater than neutral. So it will fail under the following conditions. You need all 3 to be true. 1, at least one interest group likes republic. 2, turmoil in Ile-de-France is greater than 25%. That's Paris here, Paris and surrounding environs. And 3, at least one of the following. We have an active springtime of the People's Journal entry. That's, you've seen that, you know what that is. We have greater than or equal to 25% radicals in all of France. Or any one civil war in France is progress greater than 75%. That triggers the event of the provisional government. So, that's the basic structure of the Divided Monarchy event. I'm just going to take you through our basic situation here, and then we'll get into tangling with it. First off, tech. For production, we've got a very good setup here. We're one of the most technologically advanced countries in the world right now. We already have intensive agriculture. We already have railway. We already have Atmo engine and mechanical tools. We're doing very well production-wise. Militarily, we already have Power of the Purse and Screw Frigate. Neither of those is that powerful, but having both of them already will prevent us from spending a bunch of spread on getting them. Over in the land tree, we've got all of the basics, and we're all the way up to general staff already. This means you start with Tier 3 skirmish infantry. It means we're on the cutting edge militarily. From a society perspective, we're already completely done with Tier 1. And in Tier 2, we've already got central banking and central archives. Those are both very good technologies to start with. Over here on the other side, over on the intellectual side, we already have mass communication, medical degrees, romanticism, and empiricism. And we start with egalitarianism and dialectics. So we're super in a good place with those. I think the first thing we're going to do with our research... Gosh, there are a lot of places I want to go. I think we're getting nitro. That's where we're going. That'll be important to keep us ahead militarily and will improve our mining. And then after that, I'm going to move up to quinine. We're going to grab pharmaceuticals, and then we're going to grab quinine, and that's going to allow us to kickstart colonization. Because this is not going to be a peaceful run. Moving right along here, we've got a bunch of authority left over, and we need to get some consumption taxes enacted. I'm going to go with services. That's an always. That's a no-brainer. Liquor's got a lot of potential. Luxury clothes don't have the capacity to do both luxury clothes and luxury furniture, so we'll get to that stuff later. Music player is still having a little bit of a hard time. You see me do that at the beginning of every session, and you're going to continue seeing it for the rest of my career or until they fix up the music player. So, I'm going to take a look into that later. I'm going to leave these production methods for now. Precision tools, this is almost always going to be better than not. Government administrations, we're going to go to the standardized filing system for... We're on standardized filing system for everything, right? Okay, we got one on simple org. We'll go to standardized filing system. It's not that big of a change. Universities, we're currently doing scholastic education. We're going to go to philosophy department. As you may remember, philosophy departments produce a lot of innovation at the cost of additional paper. Hyuck, hyuck, hyuck. Go ahead and do that. For our rural, we're going to go to intensive grazing ranches and slaughterhouses for all of our livestock industry. That's going to produce a certain amount of fertilizer, so we're going to grab a few of our wheat farms. Maybe just a few in our most productive areas. So let's just grab Rhône for now, and we'll put that one on the higher method. Currently we're producing all wine, and that's just fine. Development, we want everyone to be on the top tier. Barracks, technologies, cargo ports, wooden passenger carriages. Do we want the government to run the railways? No, thank you. So, first thing we're going to build is a few more construction sectors. And this is just me getting this stuff out of the way so that we can kind of get started as soon as we're getting started. So, it's going to take us up to 11. Let's do one more. And as you can see, I'm locating my construction sectors based on where there's significant unemployment. Alright, so with that having been done, I'm going to queue in a few more iron mines, because basically, I happen to know this, basically any start you're going to be in, if you build up a bunch of iron frame construction sectors, I'm already using, hold up, what? Am I not using iron frame? I am using iron frame. Weird. Well, anyway, so this is not captured properly, but as soon as I get these built, my construction industries are going to be buying a lot of iron. So the place I'm going with this is we're going to build up some iron mines. Quite a few of them. We're going to build a bunch. Can we go anywhere? We've got a lot of unemployment. I think it's going to be Orleanist. We'll just go with a bunch of them. That should be enough to get us started. So let's talk about politics. France is in kind of a funny place. So this is Louis-Philippe d'Orléans. He aligns with the industrialists. He is a political operator. That gives us a little bit of extra authority. And he's tactful. That gives us faster, improved relation speed, and reduced political movement radicalism. So that's nice. He aligns with the industrialists, as I said already, and his ideology is Orleanist. So France is in a funny situation where we've got a few different ideologies that other countries do not have. This was introduced in 1.3, I believe. So let's take a look at them. They are the three ideologies of the three royal houses, three potential royal houses. The Orleanists, the Legitimists, and the Bonapartists. So, we'll go through them in alphabetical order. So this is Bonapartiste. On government principles, they strongly endorse monarchy. They're neutral on presidential republic, and they dislike theocracy, council republic, and parliamentary republic. So they're very much about centralizing power. Under distro power, you'll see basically the same thing. They're strongly pro-autocracy. They like oligarchy just fine. They're neutral on landed voting, wealth voting, and single-party state, the sort of authoritarian democratic traditions. They're against censorship and universal suffrage, and deeply against anarchy and, interestingly, technocracy. I wonder if that's meant to be sort of signifying kind of populism that is against the idea of a government by a highly educated elite. In terms of army model, they're against national militia and peasant levies. They like mass conscription and professional army. That's interesting. And then in terms of economic system, they're against cooperative ownership and command economy. They're against agrarianism and traditionalism. They're okay with laissez-faire, and they support interventionism. Interesting. Okay. So what are their primary traits? Like autocratic interventionist monarchies with professional armies. Moving right along here, let's compare them to the Legitimists. These are the people who support the Bourbons. Oh, sorry, I didn't read the flavor text. Bonapartist flavor text. This leader would see a new Bonaparte lead France into a new era of unquestioned might. So, next is the Legitimists. This leader yearns for the French kings of old, before the reign of terror sullied everything. So they like the pre-revolutionary Bourbon monarchy. Governance principles, they like monarchy. They don't like anything else. They're against everything else. So the difference between these guys and the Bonapartists in terms of governance principles is these guys will accept the Bonapartists will accept a presidential republic. The Legitimists will not. Number 2, we got the distro power. They strongly endorse autocracy, same as the Bonapartists, but they're neutral towards oligarchy. So the Bonapartists are more okay with oligarchy compared to the Legitimists. They oppose single-party state, and they strongly oppose every other type of government. No anarchy, no technocracy, no voting of any kind. So they're a little bit... So they're pretty similar to the Bonapartists on distro power and governance principles, but they're more hardline about it all, is the way I see it. Unlike the Bonapartists, they don't have any stance on army model or economic system. So they're neutral on those two things. Instead, their stance on church and state is they're against total separation, state atheism, and freedom of conscience. They support state religion only. They're hardliners about that too. And on free speech, they're against it. They support more control over speech and are opposed to less control over speech. Just in a straight line. Okay, so that's interesting. So the Bonapartists don't care about speech or church and state, but these guys do. And then finally, you have the Orleanists, who are currently in power. Governance principles, they're essentially the same as the Bonapartists, it looks like. Yeah, on governance principles, they're the same as the Bonapartists. In terms of distro power, though, they're very different. They like landed and wealth voting, so all the kind of elite suffrage, wealth voting is like, your elites vote only, and then landed voting is really only kind of aristocratic elective from Crusader kings. They're neutral towards oligarchy and census suffrage. They'll tolerate them, but they don't like them. And then they're opposed to single-party state, autocracy, and technocracy, but also universal suffrage and anarchy. So they're a little bit more flexible, but they don't like universal suffrage or anarchy, but they also don't like the stuff at the other end of the control scale. So that's interesting. Economic system, they're exactly the same as the Bonapartists, with one really important exception, which is the Bonapartists are against laissez-faire and for interventionism. The Orleanists are for laissez-faire and neutral on interventionism, I think. Yeah, no, okay, so they got laissez-faire and interventionism essentially switched. Yeah, so the Orleanists are free market dorks, and the Bonapartists are interventionism dorks. Finally, the Orleanists have a stance on... they don't have a stance on religion, free speech, or army model, but they do have a stance on trade policy. They're against isolationism, they're against mercantilism, and they're against protectionism. They're all about free trade. Interesting. The description is, this leader sees the merits of a restrained monarch and champions a French constitution fit for such a purpose. So that's really interesting. That's really different from what we've seen before. In terms of the setup of the politics, our current king is an Orleanist, and our landowners are Orleanists as well, as you can see. They're in a party with the armed forces, who are held by a moderate, and the Catholic Church, who are held by a legitimist. The Republican Party is helmed by the industrialists, who have a reformer. And there's a Republican Union that's headed up by the rural folk and the intelligentsia, who have a radical and a reformer in power, respectively. So that's interesting. I think during an election, these two parties will align, unless something has changed. Two marginalized groups, the petite bourgeoisie and the trade unions. So that's basically what we've got going on in terms of our current politics. Laws, we're a wealth-voting monarchy. We have cultural exclusion, so we're basically as liberal as we can be in terms of citizenship and discrimination. We have freedom of conscience. We don't have state religion, but we have... or rather, we have a state religion, but it's not strictly enforced. We have appointed bureaucrats. We have a professional army. We have a national guard. Interventionist and protectionist economy with per capita taxation, tenant farmers, colonial resettlement policy for colonization, dedicated police forces, public schools. Oh, that's really strong. We start with public schools. Heck yes. No health system. Free speech. We got censorship. No workers' rights. We have allowed child labor. We have propertied women. We have poor laws here into welfare. No controls on migration, and a ban on slavery. So that's the basic setup. I'm going to go over the Algeria stuff at a later point, but for now, I just want to kind of get started because we've got a couple of events we want to get through, and then we'll get things kind of going. I'm going to spend my influence on improving relations with some of our neighbors, because I don't want to get fighty with anyone right away. Can't quite do that much. So, first event is Pretenders to the Throne. 3 dynasties have claims on the French throne. The Orleanist line backs the constitutional July monarchy. The Legitimist line supports the descendants of Charles X, while the Bonapartist line seeks to restore Napoleon's French Empire. 3 lines have risen to claim one crown, once the archenemy of Rome, then the jewel of Christendom, and now heirs to an uncertain future. The days of the Revolution are fresh in French minds. Another now so soon could spell disaster. Blood may run in the streets before this matter is truly settled. So, we have 4 options here. The first one is support the Bonapartist pretenders. This unlocks an interaction called Sway to Bonapartism. That can be used to target characters, and it increases the progress of the Bonapartists by 10. The second is Stand by the House of Orleans. This does the same for the Orleanists. Remember, they're the people currently in power. Support the Legitimist pretenders. The same for the Legitimists. Or option 4, Down with the Monarchy. Rural folk gets Republican sentiment for 5 years, 10% interest group political strength, and 5% of lower strata pops in France become more radical. So, if we say Down with the Monarchy, that pushes the journal entry towards failure. So, right now, I think we're going to go with the Bonapartists. We're going to see how that goes. I don't know exactly how well that's going to work, but we're gonna give it a shot. So now we should have our 3. Yes, here we go. So currently we're encouraging the Bonapartists. This means, and this is how we switch our options here. So currently the Bonapartists are getting more progress. And this is... whose progress bar is this? I'm not sure. I think this might be the Orleanists' progress bar. But let's wait until a week ticks over, and then we'll have... we should maybe have 3 progress bars, and then we'll kind of see how that goes. I want to kind of explain this because this is not at all obvious exactly how this works. Okay, so we only have this one progress bar. I'm not sure whose progress bar this is. I think this is actually the Orleanists bar, but don't. Oh, this is a monthly thing. This is monthly. All right, so they're currently at 25.0. So at the end of the month, we'll be able to see that. As you can see visually, we have the new day-night cycle going on. So it's currently nighttime in France, and as you can see, the City of Lights is lit, fam. Sorry, doing bad jokes out here. Can we improve relations with? Yes, we can. Currently improving with Sardinia, Piedmont, Austria, Prussia, the Netherlands, and Belgium. Just everyone who's nearby. I may end up not improving with Belgium so much later, but we'll see about that. We have the inefficient agriculture event. We can either make the industrialists a little bit salty, or we can get some radicals and some migration attraction in Rhône. I'm just gonna get the industrialists mad. I don't think that really matters a whole lot. So we just had a month changeover. We're now at 27.4, where before we were at 25.0. That's the amount for the Orleanists. So, okay, so clearly this is the bar for the Orleanists. So, I'm going to go through this because this is a little bit obscure, and this was not something I could figure out when I was first playing it. So I'm going to show you kind of what's going on with these. Each of these, this is the current value. So as you can see, this is 27.4, so this is 27. So this bar is only showing the Orleanists, but I think this will show the bar for whoever's kind of first. Or maybe whoever's currently in power. I'm really not sure. But anyway, you notice these are each increasing by different amounts, and I'm going to take you through what affects them. So, the way you get this is you mouse over this number, and this is the part that this is one of those classic Victoria 3 like menus hidden in menus, tooltips hidden in tooltips things. So, changes due to the following reasons. Number 1, 0.25 from combined popularity of Bonapartist characters in the Empire. 0.02 from clout of Bonapartist interest groups. 2.67 from military building levels. And negative 0.17 from government legitimacy. So interestingly, I'm getting a penalty for the government being legitimate. I might be able to finagle the government a little bit to make it less legitimate. For the Orleanists, there's significantly less Orleanist clout. Or no, significantly more Orleanist clout, but significantly less from building levels. And from popularity. So we're getting popularity, 0.25 from Bonapartist popularity. Orleanists are getting none from popularity. They're getting 0.99 from clout, but only 1.08. They get, the Orleanists get support from industrial building levels. And then government legitimacy, they get 0.35 from that. And then legitimists, they're also losing it due to government legitimacy. Okay, so everyone who's not in power gets more progress the less legitimate the government is. And the legitimists get clout from agricultural buildings. So, if I want to slow up the Orleanists, the thing I need to do is goof up the government's legitimacy. And I think I know exactly how to do that. Which is to keep only the Republicans in power. Although, if I did just... No, these guys they align too well. On the other hand, if I stop suppressing the intelligentsia... Ooh, then I could completely goof up the legitimacy of the government. And that would be excellent. What an interesting mechanic. Let's go with just the industrialists for now, and then we'll raise taxes, and that'll help our bottom line, but it will also further assist with our making the government legitimacy lower. So now that the government legitimacy is lower, now the Orleanists are getting power much slower. They're getting only 35 from government legitimacy, whereas we are still getting minus 0.17 from government legitimacy. No, okay, now we're getting plus 0.11 from government legitimacy. So we're doing much better now compared to the Orleanists, and marginally better compared to the Legitimists as well. So that's how we're going to handle that situation. And on top of that, let me just check my fertilizer market, make sure everything's good with that. Okay, we can still use more fertilizer. So I'll grab Provence and have that as well. Netherlands colonized the Ivory Coast. Excellent. And that's got me much better balanced from a fertilizer perspective. Alright, cool. And let's just make sure that our livestock ranches are all maximally profitable. Looks like they are. Very good. Okay, so I can not worry about that too much. We just finished February, and we're gaining progress at a good clip. But there are things we can do to gain more progress. We can flip important characters over to Bonapartism. And right now, I think the primary thing to do with that is to pull over high-ranking soldiers, because that's really going to help us have a good Bonapartist coalition. So, our head of the armed forces is this guy, Jean de Dieu Sou. He's not currently serving. He's only the head of the faction, which is just fine. So who else? He's not very popular though. Here's someone who's very popular. Honoré Charles Ray is popular, and he's a moderate. He's 60, so he's not going to die too soon. Guillaume de la Brunerie has a phenomenal beard. He's a reformer. That's not necessarily a problem. He's 60. Okay, alright, so he's a good candidate for maybe a little later. Thomas Bougeot is an Orleanist. He's not very popular either. And then Bertrand Clausel is a traditionalist. He's 63, so he's not a great candidate. Thomas Bougeot, what HQ are you? You're at the Rhine HQ, so you're just Alsace-Lorraine. So you're never going to be a huge military presence. So I think we're going to go with Honoré Charles Ray. I can't sway you to Bonapartism. Why? You're a moderate. I can't sway moderates. Interesting. So the requirement here says Honoré Charles Ray's interest group armed forces is in government, and they need to be in the government and ideologically compatible with Bonapartism. Okay, alright, so we'll do a little bit of finagling, pull you back into the government, and now you should be swayable. Yes. So this will make the opposition a little salty, and that's okay. Then I'm going to push them back out of the government. This got us a bunch of radicals, but that's okay. Go ahead and unpause that. Currently, we are still building up those construction sectors. How's our iron market? Yes. So as predicted, our iron situation is a little rough. Let's import a bit of iron from Austria. Oh. Okay. Well, there goes Victoria 3. I'm going to try to recover as much as I can of this save, but for now, since it'll take me a second to do that, I've had fun. I hope you've all have had fun. We'll see you on the other side.